I've got a hard divorce truth for you that most lawyers are not going to tell you. Did you know your anxiety is not going to get every answer it wants during your divorce? Let me explain what I mean. So many times, especially early on in a divorce, when everything is new, everything is fresh, clients will come into our firm and they will want answers now. And they will email late at night and early in the morning, and this thing happened, and oh my God. And it may not be factually, objectively so, oh my God, this thing happened, right? It's new to them. It's a totally new experience. So, like, no judgment. I get why it feels so stressy. But the thing is, your anxiety that you brought into this divorce is going to make demands on you that you cannot meet, your lawyer cannot meet, your X factor cannot meet. Definitely the court's not going to meet. Because the way I think about what does anxiety feel like, and I'm going to admit to you, I'm not someone who struggles with diagnosable anxiety. I just probably mean more like stressiness. That's how I relate to the feeling. But whenever you're thinking about anxiety, to me, anxiety is urgent. Right now. I need to know right now. It's the sort of thing that makes you send an email at 11 o'clock at night that your ex-partner forgot to bring the water bottle. Okay? Is they forgot to bring the water bottle really an 11 o'clock at night problem? Your reasonable, calm, cool, collected self knows that can wait until tomorrow or never, right? But anxiety will demand action now because doing something, acting now in that urgency feels better than doing nothing. And I hear that all the time from people in the middle of the divorce process. Like, I've got to do something. I've got to be active. Now, I get it. And just because you feel that way does not mean you have to act that way. You already know that. And sometimes it's like you're trying to scratch an itch. Ugh. But you know what happens if you scratch too much on the same place? You get an owie. You're going to give yourself an owie. Okay, if you do that, because you need to settle in. Average divorces can take from like 6 months to a year. You do not have the personal bandwidth, or I don't want you to use the personal bandwidth to scratch that itch day after day, sometimes minute after minute of anxiety demanding right now answers, right now actions. Hurry up, do something. If I could give you some advice, I would tell you, acknowledge that feeling, right? It's whenever we stuff it and we don't acknowledge it that it festers and turns into something else weird. So like, okay, yo, anxiety, I see you. I see what the deal is. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the principle I'm going to apply throughout my divorce. I'm going to let this wait at least, like maybe you could start with 1 hour. Before I send this email, say that thing, pop off on this text, send that Our Family Wizard message, before I call the lawyer, call my ex, I'm going to give myself 1 hour. And if in 1 hour you still want to do the thing, you still want to ask for the thing, then maybe it's well reasoned and well thought through. If you can build up to, I'm going to give myself the morning, I'm going to give myself the day, maybe even the weekend. All of us know that there are so many messages and calls and comments we would have not made if we thought about it over the weekend. And if you can adopt that process, you're going to save yourself a lot of money, right? Because then you're not going to be firing off all these emails to your lawyer that are never going to make it to the light of day in court. They're never really going to change the outcome of your case, but you feel like you need to keep your lawyer informed. And like, agreed, yes, we need to know what's going on with some level of materiality. And that means like, is this influential in the outcome of what's going on in your life? Or is it just making you feel better to tell somebody and you're telling the person you're paying a decent bit of money an hour or the paralegal or whatever? Instead, if you can wait, you're going to save yourself that money. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache from like things you said or did that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, okay? So once it's out there, you can't take it back. And then just getting in control of your behavior is going to give you so much peace and so much freedom in this process. And here's the thing. You may not have been that kind of person before the divorce. You may have been super nervous Nelly and always acting from impulse or like scratching the itch mentality, all right? let this be an opportunity for you to gain some new muscles, to gain some new strengths. Because I'm going to tell you, your divorce is going to give you some new muscles. You're going to get some new strength from doing this. It's just, I've been through it. I've been through 2 custody modifications. I always say, like, ask me how I know. I am a completely different person, and I think better person because of all those things that I've been through. And especially when it comes to managing your anxiety. Now, of course, if you struggle clinically with this, you need to be well, connected up on all your visits with your psychiatrist, your psychologist, your counselor, taking your medications. This is not like the time to experiment on what would happen if I went off of that stuff, right? For some of you, you may have been dealing with this but didn't really know. Like, divorce is the place where so many people encounter mental health for the first time, like start to think about their mental health and maybe get a referral for the first time to a therapist to have somebody to talk to. So maybe that's how anxiety will come up for you. And I recommend, like, welcome every opportunity that comes to you in the divorce. And, when you're thinking about getting divorced, you're not thinking like, oh, let me do this so that I can have lots of new opportunities or whatever. Like, that's not why you do it. And at the end of this, when there will be an end, like, let me just say that there will be an end. This will not go on forever. Maya Angelou tells us that every storm runs out of rain. There's going to be a you after this. And the way you behave in your divorce, the way that you employ strategies to deal with stress, to deal with grief, to deal with anxiety in your divorce can serve you the rest of your life. They certainly have for me. One of those strategies that I employ literally to this day, even as I'm shooting this video, I had to use it today, is this concept of healthy detachment. And the way I think about what that means is I behave in a way that I'm proud of. I mean, not always, right? Where none of us are perfect, but like generally speaking, I behave in a way that makes me proud. I really try to be a good and kind person with compassion and understanding and empathy, full of awareness with every person that I meet. I fall short, but I try. And if I do that, I can kind of leave the rest to what may. I'm not attached necessarily to the outcome because I can only control the input. I can only control the way that I behave and the way that I think and the way that I act. And I work to have a healthy detachment from the outcomes and how other people are going to act and behave around me because I have no control over that. And in your divorce, you can control the input. You can control what you do, how you behave, how you show up. What you can't control is how they're going to respond, how they're going to behave, what you're going to get in the divorce, whether the kids are going to be with you primarily, what's going to happen when the kids are over at mom's or dad's house and you're not there to protect them from the drinking. Like, all of that stuff really is outside of your control. So if you can begin to research this, think on it, you can post some comments, ask some questions. Like, I'd be happy to talk with you more about this, the concept of healthy detachment. And for me, it is one of the most liberating things in the world to be like, I am not responsible for that person's behavior, for that outcome. All I can control is the way that I show up, the inputs that I give, and including those inputs would be like the way I react to a situation. That's 100% on me. And I'm going to be real with you. It's 100% on you in the middle of this divorce, because you know what you may want to do? You may want to have one big fat pity party. And you may want to sit around and feel sorry for yourself. And you may want to sit around and cry. You have a choice. You can be bitter or you can be better. And you get to choose. That's both freeing and, if you're like me, terrifying. Because I get to choose means it's my personal responsibility. What happens in my life, what happens in this divorce is on me. Nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's going to do this for me. The court's not going to save me. It's not my lawyer's fault, my ex's fault, the judge's fault, the amicus's fault, the counselor's fault. You got a long list of people you can blame if you want. But are you going to be the sort of person who continues to blame others? who continues to give their power away to other people and not being detached, but instead always ebbing and flowing on what happens to you. You've had a bad day because so-and-so was ugly to you today, because your ex sent you a really annoying email, because your kids were being punks, because your lawyer didn't return your call. Then you're like a kid's sailboat in the middle of the ocean. And instead, I want you to think of yourself as like a big old cruise ship with an anchor, and you're not moving, come what may. It can be a tempest around you, and you will remain resolved and firm, rooted in your identity, rooted in who you are, because that's who you are, because you're going to make the choice to be better, not bitter. You know those people who made the other one, who are a member of the Mad Dad Club or the Whiny Woman Club, I like to call it. Instead of using their divorce as kindling, the stuff that makes a fire and stuff. Instead of using that to start a blaze, a brand new life as the fuel for a spark in your own life. You know what they do? They sit around for years later whining about what happened, what he did to her, now with his new girlfriend, how the system's rigged against him, how everybody hates dad's getting nothing, she did this to me and the kids. You can choose their entire online worlds dedicated to this stuff. Or you can join my world instead. And instead, you can use this divorce to grow. You can use this divorce as the opportunity that it is. Look, you got here. It wasn't easy. You didn't make this decision yesterday, but something in you was so brave. It is a radically courageous act to get divorced. You've said, I don't know what's on the other side of this, but whatever it is, it's better than what I'm in right now. And I'm willing to take that chance on the unknown. I don't know more brave people than people who are divorced, all right? And maybe the divorce happened to you and you didn't really want this, and I'm sorry, and that hurts, and that's hard. And you still have the same choice. You're going to sit around and cry about that for the rest of forever? Like, some degree of crying, I'm sure, is healthy, obviously. I didn't. I guess I'll say that. I'll share that with y'all. When I was getting divorced, I used to talk about this like it was a badge of honor. I didn't cry not one day. I didn't stay in, and I mean, I cried some, but what I mean is I didn't stay in bed having a wallow pity party, crying my eyeballs out. I had things to do. I was in the middle of law school. I had kid stuff to do. I had, at that point, like custody modification stuff to do. I had a life to live. I didn't sit around and cry about it. Now, I think I paid for that later. I don't think I knew anything about how to heal and how to deal with it. Because people would say to me, well-intentioned, y'all know, oh my God, when you're getting divorced, there is all kinds of well-intentioned or maybe not so well-intentioned advice that you're going to get. And one of those things is take time to heal. And literally when I got divorced, it was 10 years ago. So now there's a lot more conversation about healing and what that may mean. For me, there wasn't, because people would say that and I'd be like, okay, that sounds like a cool idea. Take time to heal. Yeah, all right, who can argue with that? But how do I do that? What literally do I do? Do I get a pill? Do I go to yoga? I mean, I tried the yoga thing. I mean, that's kind of it. How does one heal? And for me, I've learned that really what healing means, and maybe this will reach you in the middle of your divorce, is taking the time to feel the feeling and sit with it and not run. Because if you run, or you keep yourself busy, or you don't allow yourself the time to sit in it, to grieve, to hurt, and instead you go to action or anger, you're never going to move through it. Because the way I think of it, I was talking to a guy recently who was telling me about his divorce, and he was heartbroken. And the way heartbreak was showing up for him was Mad Dad Club, angry, pissed off. And I don't blame him for some of the reasons why he was angry. The more that we talked, at the end of it, he started crying and he said, Hannah, I just miss my girls. And I said, man, I hear you. And that is a hard, rough truth to admit. And what that is pain. And it's much harder to sit in the pain and to be with it and to, oh, even talking about it's gonna make me cry. Like, to own the hurt is harder than to be mad. Because when you go up the level, anger is a step up from hurt. Because when we're angry, we're acting, there's something to do, it's movement. And hurt, we don't like that feeling. I don't want to hurt. I'll do anything else, right? The thing is, hurt, I think of it like the roots of a tree, and anger is the branches. And if you spend time up in the branches and you never get down to the root of the hurt, you're never going to plant a new plant or have a new tree. You're just going to be out floating in anger's branches. If you don't find a way to dig down and to get deep into what's hurting you, I didn't do that for a long time. And literally, I had no one to explain that to me. So what it looks like for me now is when something hurts in the context, for me, it's a custody world now. Like when something hurts, rather than immediately get busy, immediately turn it into a positive, immediately see the opportunity, I force myself, and I'm talking like force, like white knuckle kind of force myself when I can, and I'm aware, to sit with it, to let the tears come, to let the pain come, and just, if I can, and that's the emotion, like to cry, to maybe feel unmotivated, to feel kind of slothy for the day, and just feel those feelings. And here's the thing. If you do that, they move on through instead of taking root and growing into this anger tree that we were talking about. If you will do that, just try it. All right, like just try it. If you've never tried that before, if you're watching this far, you trust me at least a little bit. Like, trust me on this. As someone who never did do this, I've had some opportunities in my most recent custody situations to do that. Some really painful and really tough stuff. And I could be mad. I could sit around and be angry and blame all the things and all the reasons why this is unfair or unjust and it's not my fault and all that. And instead, what I've chosen to do is when the sadness comes and when the grief comes and when the pain comes, to stay put. And that's how I'm able to talk to you about it, rather than just be ranting and raving of how unfair it is. But instead, I can access that place of pain so that I can share it with you. And you're going to have the opportunity to do that for someone else. And what we all really want to know is we're not alone. And you're not alone in going through this. I've been there. People at my firm have been there. So like 50% of the population or something has been there. But here's the thing. I know so often for us, it doesn't feel like that. Like if you're a member of the divorced or like custody drama club, it feels like you're a pariah. You should be ashamed. You're an outcast. Like schools have not caught up. Like one school project's a family tree. When you're a blended family with two sets of people instead, how are you supposed to do that? Have you lived in that pain? Like you're not alone. And I think you can feel that way, at least if you're anything like me, because I used to feel that way. I used to feel like nobody understood. All of my kids, friends' parents were still married. They had no idea what it was like to try to deal with what if they're an hour late to pick up on a Friday? What if child support didn't come on time? What if they say they want to do the school project, but they're going to show up on Sunday with nothing, but you got to kind of play along so you're not the one always making a thing? Like those people can't relate to that. But those of us who can, we're members of a club, right? We've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I always tell people like, it's a club none of us wanted in, but we're here, so we might as well make the best of it. And that's one of the things that I'm working to do is to help teach parents and join parents. Like, look, I have a lot to learn about how to deal with custody drama. And so if that's you, you found the right place. You're a member of the club none of us wanted to be in, but glad you made it.